Hey everyone, welcome to How to Vegan, and today we are going to be showing how to press and marinate a block of tofu. Tofu is a fantastic meat alternative, but it's just a little too flavorless for a lot of people, so we're going to show you today how to add some of that flavor in there. Now the first step, you definitely want to get out all the liquid you can, and you can start that by just squeezing the block and making sure to not squeeze too hard as to crumble it, but enough that you see some of those droplets coming out. Now the next step is just cut it nice and cleanly in half. This will give you a thinner block of tofu to press, and you'll be able to get it that much drier and firmer. Try and cut it in half as best you can. I did an okay job of that, as you can see, and that'll come up later. Just dab those sides that you just cut with a nice dry rag to get any extra liquid out. Next, we are going to wrap the tofu in a nice cheesecloth. A lot of online tutorials for pressing tofu will tell you to use paper towel. I think that's not nearly as good. It just doesn't let out the same amount of liquid that cheesecloth does. Cheesecloth's a lot more porous, while still doing a great job of maintaining the shape of the block. Once you have your blocks of tofu wrapped, you just put them in whatever you're using for a press. I use 2 cake pans and a nice little old-fashioned iron, and that does a great job of pressing my tofu, but you can do it with books or all types of things. We're going to make the marinade, and every marinade's different. We're going to start with some basics. You got to have an oil. We're going to use sesame oil. We're going to put some black and red pepper in there for a little bit of kick. We are going to be using liquid smoke, which is my absolute new favorite ingredient in any tofu marinade. I would recommend it in almost anything unless you want it to not be smoky. But then we're also just going to throw in this barbecue sauce I've had kicking around in the fridge. And then we're going to include what I think an essential in any marinade, which is a little bit of soy sauce, some sort of vinegar, and maple syrup. It doesn't even necessarily have to be soy sauce. It's just about that trio of salt, vinegar, sugar. You got to have a formulation of those two. And I like to include an allium as well. So today we're going to be using garlic. So I'm going to start off just putting some soy sauce and some vinegar into the bottle of barbecue sauce, just to make sure I get everything out of there, thin it up a little bit. So I'm just going to pour in some of those ingredients and shake it around, and that'll be a part of the foundation of our marinade. We're going to try and hit like the halfway line in this container. That should fill up perfectly. And then you always want to be tasting as you're going as well. I can taste from this that there's not enough sugar at all and a little too much on vinegar. You don't really have to worry too much about using too much salt or sugar, because those things will be absorbed by the tofu as it marinades. But you can overdo it on vinegar, and that'll just basically cover up every other flavor, so be careful with that. Added almost everything else here, and I'm just sort of topping it off with a little black pepper, a little bit of red pepper. I did already add the liquid smoke. I know you didn't see it, but you just trust me. And top it off with a nice layer of sesame oil. That helps keep everything submerged in the main marinade, and also adds a little bit of that nice smoky sesame flavor. And you just drop in your garlic, and you have your marinade. Gorgeous, right? Let's check on the tofu. So it's been pressing for about an hour. And you can see down there at the bottom, if you look real close, we've drained out even more liquid. So that's good. It's exactly what we want to do. And we're gonna just unwrap one of these blocks and see how it's looking. Beautiful. Much firmer. Much firmer. And so the next step is crisp it up a little bit. Frying the exterior of the block is kind of extra credit. You don't really need to do it, but it will help your strips of tofu maintain their integrity better as they marinate. I think it's really worthwhile, but if you don't have the time or inclination to fry your exterior blocks of tofu, nothing wrong with that. So get a nice layer of oil warming in a pan as you unwrap your tofu, and just make sure it's spread nicely and wait for that to warm up. Once it's starting to warm up, you can put your tofu in there and you should be seeing it start to bubble. And the first thing you want to do is flip that tofu so that it's coated on every side with oil, because that'll be important once the oil gets hot and you want to flip it without having it just almost burn immediately. So then just get them in that oil and let them start cooking. Flip them once they're a beautiful golden brown color, as you can see here. And once you've got that going on both sides, you don't have to get too dark. Pull them out and get ready to cut them. It takes a little bit of patience to cut through that hard, crispy exterior, but it's worth it to get that nice strip. You want to use a sharp knife for this process. You can cut the strips as thin or as thick as you want. It definitely is harder the thinner you go and will require a sharper knife. Now this block of tofu is the one that was cut thinner and as a result didn't get as much weight on it from the press, and as you can see it's much softer and a lot harder to cut strips of. Not a big deal, still delicious. We're throwing our strips in the marinade now, and you can see that it's just perfectly enough to fill up the container. Isn't that, oh, ooh, don't you just want to bite? All right, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and see you on the next video.